Hey guys, and welcome back to the second channel. Yeah, that's right, 3 videos with this type of consistency. It's not gonna last long, I promise you. Again, a big thank you for all the support as of recent with this channel, all the love, and I've really been enjoying reading all your comments, and it's been really heartwarming to read a lot of them as well. Also, thank you, by the way, for 7,500 subscribers. That's pretty insane, honestly, for a channel like this. Also feeling that nostalgia of having a channel grow from such a low number again, so it's been really cool to see. Anyways, with this channel, as I've mentioned before, there is always going to be a link to a Google form in the description. There you can submit any kind of questions you have that you'd want me to answer for a separate video. Or maybe what I might do from time to time is like a lightning round where I answer a few questions that have shorter answers. But for today, I kind of wanted to do something different. I wanted to just kind of talk about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a bit. I don't really know why. I just decided, why not, I guess. I'm gonna start this story by basically saying that all my life, my relatives have never always been defined by blood. What I mean by this is that on my dad's side in particular, I don't have an uncle by blood. So I actually consider a close friend of my dad's to be more of an uncle figure to me. I also never met my actual grandpa by blood due to a tragedy before I was even born. Instead, my grandpa was a man by the name of Tom, who was basically like a widower for my grandma. And outside my parents, he was probably the closest family member I had for a long time. I grew up an only child, so I was really shy, and also I was really scared to talk to people. I think you're starting to sense a bit of a pattern with this channel, but it was so easy to talk to someone like Tom. He was just very easygoing, and also just allowed me to be myself. Any kind of family gathering, anytime I saw him, we played a lot of tic-tac-toe, hangman, and I like to think that I got some of my humor from him as well. And again, this was not my biological grandpa. He was just someone who entered the family. He didn't really need to do all this stuff for me, especially since we never really saw each other that much, but he did. And outside my parents, that was the most warmth I had felt in my life at that point. Going to my mom's side, it's even more complicated. Avoiding all the personal detail, she was born after the Vietnam War and left years later at a very young age. She was a refugee in Hong Kong and then lived in numerous foster homes in the US throughout her childhood. And as she fended for herself basically in the United States of all places, trying to figure out who she was, what she would do, she met a lot of friends, whether it was during her time in foster care or outside it. And because my mom left her actual family pretty much forever, some of these friends that she made were considered my relatives later on. This included an elderly woman I called Ba. Ba means grandma in Vietnamese, by the way. Despite not being my biological grandma on my mother's side, she was always there to take care of me during my early childhood. She didn't really speak that much English, honestly, but was always very thoughtful and always made sure I was having fun and felt warm. Thing is, though, outside of these people, I don't mean this in any cynical way, but my other relatives on my mom's side didn't really feel like family to me. For my parents, I honestly don't think they ever felt like a part of the opposite side's family. And for me in particular, I was just stuck in this in-between of nothing. On my dad's side, people were nice, but they never really made me feel like I belonged. And with my mom's side, she was always so busy with work, so I never got to learn Vietnamese from her besides the numbers 1 through 20, trời ơi, and an. As a result, I pretty much grew up whitewashed by the time I met most of my Vietnamese relatives in Houston when I was like 7. So sure, I was half Vietnamese, but I had no idea what that even meant, really. But at that time, I didn't really care. I mean, I'm just a kid, you know, I'm just playing video games, New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, all that kind of stuff, right? Or at least that's what I thought. Because as I grew older, I yearned for a sense of identity without even realizing it. Because through YouTube, I was naturally interested in the Asian creators. Ryan Higa, Kev Jumba, Freddie Wong, even my Johnny. Watching them made me proud of my and others' Asian heritage for really the first time ever. I mean, shit, like Nice Guys finished last, that's like a national anthem to the Asian American community at this point. Quite honestly though, the more I think about it, the more I realize that the majority of these YouTubers were like role models, because growing up in the 2010s, there really wasn't that much Asian presence in American media at the time. Then there was Jeremy Lin. So back in 2011, there was Linsanity. It was like this one-of-a-kind moment. An Asian American balling in the biggest city in the country, and he was putting up ridiculous numbers, always proving the doubters like fucking Kobe Bryant wrong. And speaking of Kobe, I'll never forget watching that Knicks vs. Lakers game where I think Jeremy Lin dropped like 38 points. And now he has more rings than Melo. But anyways, Jeremy Lin was on every headline. Everyone was talking about him. To really put it simply, he made being Asian look so fucking cool. At this point, I had already had dreams of becoming a YouTuber. But after the whole Linsanity thing, I wanted to be like those YouTubers that I have watched for a couple years now. I wanted to show off who I was. I wanted to show off my identity and be proud of it, and leave a legacy based on that identity. But the thing is, you can only celebrate your identity so much when you don't actually experience much of it at home. So while on the surface I was proud to be Asian, I didn't really know what that meant. And then high school happened, and I went to a high school in rural North Carolina. And as an Asian kid, where there's barely any Asians, in fact, I was actually the only Asian guy in my class, it wasn't exactly the best experience. There was always racism in the hallways as I passed, and being called Jackie Chan and whatever bullshit. And outside all of the race stuff, no one acknowledged me because I had such low self-esteem to meet new people in the first place. So I did what many other Asians have done in the past when they are greeted with a situation like this. I became a pick-me. Into my second and into my third year also of high school, I started making the stereotypical jokes at my own expense. And it worked. I mean, I got laughs, more people knew who I was, but this was all at the detriment of my own culture. And then by the time I was halfway through my third year of high school, I just kind of got bored of it, man. Like, you can only make so many dog-eating and factory worker jokes until it just gets really old. Luckily, though, after my retirement from being a pick-me, I was able to find a good friend group in my last year, and this was after watching a couple World Cup games with these guys. This was a group that I didn't need to seek validation from. This was the first time I ever really experienced anything like this. They fucked with me for me. One friend in particular, who is actually now my best friend, he's French and Iranian, and throughout my time of knowing him, without any kind of hesitation, he has made it his life's goal to talk about his culture. He wasn't undermining it either. He was just really boasting about it because he was just that damn proud of it. We became better friends around the arrival of the 2019 Asian Cup. We bonded over that a lot because we love football and also we're both Asian. And it just so happened that Vietnam and Iran were in the same group. Now, as I mentioned, this guy loves to boast, and I couldn't let him be the only one to chirp, so I got more involved with the Vietnamese national team as a result. And even though I watched this team lose 2-0 after waking up at 5 in the morning with the flu, I kept getting more invested in this team. And eventually, I witnessed Vietnam make it to the quarters for the first time. And in that moment, when I saw the winning penalty go in, I felt proud. Not only to be Asian, but to be Viet. It didn't really go any deeper than that, though, because the Asian Cup ended, so there was no national team left. I couldn't really find where they played. And then high school was getting more stressful with projects and exams. And then on top of all this shit, I had to figure out the rest of my life. I mean, college and everything. This was my last year. I didn't know where I was going to college. Quite honestly, I didn't know where I was going to college until like August. And then when I actually went to college in my first semester, I just got severely depressed and then started making FIFA videos. So all of this identity and everything kind of just got lost for a whole 2 years. But then came December 2020. Around this time, I was only just starting to get into like dating apps and everything like that, which I don't know why I did that when everyone was in lockdown. But either way, I matched with a Vietnamese girl on there, and I didn't really know how to talk to women at the time, so the convos were pretty dead. And then eventually I got ghosted after she flaked on meeting with me. But the one thing I do remember very vividly is when we talked about being Vietnamese. There was one conversation in particular about nuc mam. It's basically like this dipping sauce that we have in Vietnam. Now, I had never heard of nuc mam in my entire life, but I've had it all my life. I just called it fish sauce. But I remember in that moment the feeling of embarrassment, because for the first time I was really being confronted with the fact that despite being proud of it, I wasn't actually Vietnamese. Okay, I think that's a little harsh, but I mean, I was just so whitewashed that I didn't even know the actual Vietnamese word for what I've literally had all my life. This conversation in particular, especially after I had been flaked on and ghosted, was the wake-up call, the long-awaited wake-up call that I so desperately needed. Too often, I was scared to confront these feelings with my mom, pretty much out of embarrassment for waiting this long to do so. So, in turn, I just stayed in my comfort zone, behind this excuse. But now I was finally done with this excuse. I didn't want to be like this anymore, especially after all these years of feeling this way. So I finally went out by myself to seek out my roots. Now, the thing about digging deeper and discovering your roots, especially if you don't talk to your parents that much about it, and also you don't know the language, it's a little bit complicated. But let me just give you the step-by-step of what I did. Now, obviously, the language is kind of the best way to do it, but at the same time, if you are at the age of 20, have a lot of different responsibilities, it gets a little bit daunting. So what I started with was music, something that I really enjoyed. Always just take something that you really enjoy just in your native language or whatnot, and if you want to learn more about that culture or learn more about your roots or whatever, take whatever you like in that native language and find the version in whatever culture you're looking into getting into. So for me, I started with Viet pop, Vietnamese indie music, and I also put some effort into remembering a few songs too. One of my all-time favorite Vietnamese songs is called Oi Ting You Tan Tiêu by Lena. It is a song that if I am drunk enough and don't have any kind of social conscience, I will fucking belt that song in karaoke. Then later on, after getting more into Vietnamese music, I decided to go one step further, and this was actually in the middle of my transition in content as I was going from FIFA career mode content to what I do now, football content. So in an effort to learn my roots more through a subculture, I decided to research for a whole video essay about the Vietnamese national team. By the time that video was done, I was very proud of it, by the way. But I also wanted to follow the national team even more. The same national team that made me so proud 2 years prior. And it was perfect timing too, because this golden generation had literally just made it to the third round of Asian qualifiers. So I kept making more videos specifically about those qualifiers, in depth as well. All the pain and suffering that I had to face losing to Saudi Arabia, Australia, China. I mean, oh God, the China game. I have a Spotify playlist called Sports Team Lost, which is just basically like my sad boy playlist. I have a screenshot from that game as the cover album. But as I made more of these videos about Vietnamese football, I started seeing comments from people that were actually from Vietnam, which kind of scared me shitless at first. Because here's the thing, right? Initially, I started with awful pronunciation, barely any knowledge about the culture, or even really the food. But the thing was, and this just kind of shocked me, they didn't make fun of me for it. They encouraged me to keep going. It all just felt like a warm welcome despite my many shortcomings. In a way, I felt like I finally belonged to my Vietnamese heritage. And that eventually led to me actually talking to my mom about her background more. So I really couldn't have done it without you guys. Fast forward to fall 2023, and I was visiting Vietnam for the first time ever. This was almost 2 years after that Tinder match epiphany situation. This was a pretty monumental moment for my family. I mean, my mom left over 30 years ago, and now her son was coming back to where she was born in the ongoing search for his long-lost roots. And the one thing I'll never forget when I first landed in Vietnam and everything was when I posted that I was in the country on my Instagram story, and all of a sudden my DMs were just filled with people messaging me and offering to show me around the city on their bikes. I ended up taking up on a couple of those offers, and this was genuinely the most unforgettable experience I will probably ever have when it comes to traveling. I was shown amazing food spots, I was told more about the people, the culture, and again, in that moment, I genuinely felt such a strong belonging to a culture that I've been longing to be a part of. And then last year, I went back for 2 weeks this time around. In Hanoi, I met way more people who were fans of the channel. They showed me, again, some amazing food spots. I even played footy with these guys and got this jersey from them. And I mean, I will hold on to this jersey for the rest of my life. That was 1 week though. The next week I was in Saigon and stayed at a place of a friend that I had met on my first trip. During this trip, it was the first time I ever had a proper Vietnamese dinner. And dear Christ, they make sure you're beyond full. But that's the love language there. And I mean, the food's great. So I mean, your stomach might be tired, but trust me, your taste buds will be fine. I also don't have a Vietnamese name, by the way, so my friend's family actually gave me one. Mang Tuan. Mang meaning strong, Tuan meaning handsome. I miss that family a lot because, again, they really just took me in like I was one of their own. And I'll especially miss all the delicious dinners we had. And also the literal pitchers of soy milk that they made for me. And then fast forward to finally the recent AFF Cup. When we won, I had that sense of pride I had in 2019, that proud to be Vietnamese feeling. But this time, it didn't really just feel like some simple nationalism. This felt more like an achievement for even me, in a way. And it's all thanks to every Viet since September 2021 that encouraged me to push past the shame of not knowing who I was and the embarrassment of feeling like it was too late. Whether I have met you or not, I consider you all to be my family because every time I think about Vietnam, I feel that same strong warmth in my heart that I felt all those years back with Ba and my grandpa Tom. Every single time I make a video about Vietnam, every single time I even talk about Vietnam with my friends, I always, just in the back of my mind, have this idea of always making sure to share everything with them because I'm so fucking proud to be Vietnamese. I'm so proud to have everyone in my back corner, basically, from all the way across the globe. Even outside of just Vietnam as well, the diaspora and everything, it just genuinely makes me feel so warm. And going forward, I want nothing else than to continue to make you guys proud. I don't really know how I want to end this video, to be honest. So all I'm going to say is thank you to each and every single one of you that helps me on this journey. And to anyone who feels like they're lost, they're struggling with their identity, it feels like there's two sides of the coin, but somehow you're only in the middle where there is just nothing. It's just a purgatory, basically. I promise you, it's never too late. I promise. So anyways, I should probably learn more of the language because I only know how to order food.